If you are using ActiveCampaign, you simply cannot miss out on its site tracking feature. Site tracking shows you which pages on your website were visited by known contacts. This is extremely important. You cannot just track anybody. This contact already needs to be in your ActiveCampaign database, plus they need to have accepted cookies on your website, if of course you are cookie compliant, GDPR compliant. First of all, of course, you need to just go into the site tracking section and then enable site tracking. Then you need to whitelist and install the code on your website. You have this tracking code over here that is unique to your ActiveCampaign account, and you need to insert this tracking code into your website. And there are a couple of ways to do it. Now we need to somehow inject this tracking code onto your website, and there are a couple of ways to do it. The first way, which is quite intuitive, is of course using the ActiveCampaign for WooCommerce plugin if you are using WordPress. So then you would just scroll down here within this plugin into this section called Tracking and Browse Abandonment. And then you would just click on Enabled, Track by default. And then this would automatically inject that piece of code from ActiveCampaign onto your website, and you are good to go. Okay, the next and also quite an elegant way to implement this tracking code onto your website is to use something like Fluent Snippets, or any type of plugin that would allow you to inject some kind of code into your website. There are many plugins like this. I'm sure you can find one. Fluent Snippets is my favorite, actually, for WordPress. So then, for example, you would just go into Content, PHP plus HTML, and then you would select where you want to run this particular code. It is recommended by ActiveCampaign to inject it into your footer. So you'd just select site-wide footer, and then you would put this code in here, and then you would name it something like ActiveCampaign site tracking, and then you would create the snippet, activate the snippet, and then it's going to just inject this code on all page loads into your footer. The next way is to use Google Tag Manager, and this is my preferred method because then I have full control over the scripts that are being injected into my website when it comes to just digital marketing. So then you would again call it ActiveCampaign site tracking. You would select custom HTML, then you would inject this particular code into this HTML field. And then what is really cool is that in Google Tag Manager, you can select these extra settings for consent. For example, if you really care about GDPR, privacy, but also having a powerful, fully controlled setup for your digital marketing, then you would probably select require additional consent to for tag to fire, and then you would use analytics storage. So then once somebody lands on your website, and then only when they accept cookies, then this condition here is met. They have given the permission for analytics storage. Then in Google Tag Manager's preview mode, you can easily see if this particular cookie or tag fired. You can see, for example, here that it did. ActiveCampaign site tracking, everything had fired, so you can then test it in preview mode. So basically it should fire after consent, or if you don't really care about consent or do not live in a place that requires it, you can just fire it on all page loads, and it's going to be working just fine. Another way you can use ActiveCampaign site tracking with Google Tag Manager is that you can install it on your server-side container. If you are using advanced analytics on a server container, for example, with something like Stape, and you want to bypass ad blockers, VPNs and things like that to get even more accurate data. There is a special tag for that. You would just go into add a new tag, then you would go to discover more tag types in the community template gallery, and you will find this kind of custom ActiveCampaign tag created by Stape. And you can configure it. It has way more options. So if you want to be really fancy and create a kind of more advanced server-side site tracking with ActiveCampaign, you can easily do it. Okay, so we have already tested the validity of the ActiveCampaign code via the Google Tag Manager preview mode, but you can also do it in another way, especially if you are not using Google Tag Manager. So then you would just go to your favorite browser like Chrome, and then you would go into incognito mode, and you would open the inspector. So then you have this full console over here, and the main code that is injected by ActiveCampaign has this name diffuser. So as you can see, it didn't fire just yet because we need to first accept the cookies. So now I have just accepted the cookies. Then there is a little kind of page reload, and you can see that the diffuser code actually fired, no problem. Request status code 200 OK. So we are all good here. You can just inspect the whole thing if it fired correctly. And of course, you can also use something like Ghostery, which is a really nice extension for Google Chrome. So then you would just open it, you can pause it for your particular website, and then you will see here that we have ActiveCampaign and that it also loaded this diffuser code. So now site tracking is on. Okay, so now that we have successfully installed site tracking on our website, now let's see how it works within this ActiveCampaign ecosystem. So first of all, you can just give it a try and, for example, sign yourself up as a test contact for some kind of form on your website, and then you can just click around, and then you would just go into your particular contact, the one that you created and that you interacted with the page with, and then you would just go to recent activities here, and you can just select site and event tracking. And over here you will see a whole list of different websites, pages that this contact has actually visited. And you can just test it with just by yourself to make sure that it's working. So then you are absolutely sure that the full setup is properly working. Next, what you can actually do with this whole site tracking. Actually, you can do quite a lot. If you just go to automations, just start a new automation in ActiveCampaign, you will see this view over here where you have different categories. But here in the search box, you can just type tracking and you will immediately see a lot of great examples of how to use site tracking. So for example, for abandoned cart, for example, somebody visits your cart page, but then they do not purchase, you can use it as a trigger for your automation. You have different options for nonprofits. For example, you can use site tracking to ask for a donation if somebody was on a particular page, but you can also use it for lead scoring. And I think this is one of the best use cases here, because if you see that somebody clicks around some of your top money pages on your website, you will immediately know who they are. So you can add some engagement score to their contacts, and then you can follow up with them really easily. Let's have a quick look at an example. I have chosen this abandoned cart reminder automation here, and you can see that it will start the automation when somebody, let's say, visits a cart page. But of course, this could be your very specific particular page. And then you could just wait for a couple of hours. You can add some engagement score, and then you can send them an email. So this is a kind of basic automation here. Let me also just show you how these triggers work. When you select just add a new trigger, you will see these different types of triggers that you can use. And the most useful trigger, and the one that you can actually just use for site tracking, is this one. Web page is visited. That's the whole site. The whole point of site tracking is that a particular site was visited. Okay, and now let's just take a look at the engagement score automations that you could set up in your ActiveCampaign account. For example, if somebody has replied to any email, then you would add these extra points for them. Again, when they visit a sales page, so that's exactly how you would use site tracking. Clicks on any link in your emails, visits a checkout page. Again, here visits a sales page plus 20, visits a checkout page plus 30, and reads any email plus 10. And if the engagement score is above 80, you would give them a tag like high engagement, which would mean that they would get automatically pushed to the sales team, because this is obviously a hot lead that we are dealing with. And the funny thing about engagement score is that you can say, okay, how much you want to add, but you can also subtract for these points for different types of activities or inactivity. And then these points can also expire. So they cannot be probably, it's better to not keep them forever. Usually they should expire after a couple of months, so you have a more up-to-date information about their actual engagement in the last, let's say, 90 days in your CRM. So then you can build this whole kind of little architecture of engagement in your CRM. I hope that right now you already have a great understanding of how site tracking works on ActiveCampaign, and you are ready to implement it on your website. If you want to now learn how to conduct really great and precise research with the use of artificial intelligence, I invite you to watch this video next. I'm going to see you in the next one. Ciao!